Honestly, this is just an excuse to show you guys my sketchbooks, but in doing so, I hope that you understand how important it is to keep a sketchbook as a comic artist. Hi, my name is Chris. Welcome to Panels in Progress, a podcast about making comics and manga and learning through the process. And today's episode is all about sketchbooks. So if you happen to be sketching or working on your comic, get comfortable and let's have a good conversation. Before we even get started, where are you guys on this topic? Do you keep a sketchbook or is everything digital? What type of sketchbook do you like? Because everyone has the type that they prefer. And I'm curious to know yours, so leave it in the comments below. Alright, if you're like me, you probably love looking at sketchbook tours. I love looking at sketchbooks. I think it is amazing, and I'm always amazed by the things that people put in their sketchbooks. However, maybe you've noticed that some artists have these perfect sketchbooks where every single page is filled with amazing artwork, beautiful things that they have either drawn from imagination or studied. And yeah, it's a sketchbook, but most likely it's an art book that happens to be in a sketchbook. Not every sketchbook is like that, and I can definitely say that my sketchbook is nowhere like that. My sketchbook is a hodgepodge of crappy drawings, studies, observations, scribbled notes. I use it for everything. And I think that is really what a sketchbook should be. A place to dump your ideas, dump your thoughts, experiment, explore, and try things you probably wouldn't try if someone was leaning over your shoulder watching. Or maybe you would, maybe you're into that. Now really, a sketchbook could be whatever you want it to be. If you really want to make every single piece of art pure perfection, you could do that. But I think it's safe to say that the best sketchbooks are those gritty ones where you can see the thoughts behind the process. At least those are the sketchbooks I like to see. The thinking behind the drawing, not just the end result, but the process they got, the process they worked through to get to that design, to get to that idea. So as I say words like should and have to and need to, take all of that with a grain of salt. I mean, it is your book. You can do whatever the hell you want to do with it. But here's some ideas to kind of push you in the right direction or inspire you in the right direction of the best ways a comic book artist can use their sketchbook. It doesn't have to be finished pieces. It doesn't have to be anything profound. It could just be doodles or scribbles or just a warm-up book. Some artists like to separate the categories of their sketchbook, and I tried this once where you have a sketchbook for every single thing that you're studying, a sketchbook that is just for faces, a sketchbook that's just for hands, maybe a sketchbook that's only page layouts and compositions, another one just for character designs. But I found that even though the idea of having an idea of, or having a book of just those ideas seems like a cool idea, it doesn't necessarily work for me. I like to finish one book, even though I have two books going right now, but that's beside the point. I like to finish one sketchbook at a time and let it be an amalgamation of all of the things that I'm doing at that time. Now let's actually talk about the physical nature of a sketchbook. There are so many different types out there, so many brands ranging from the best quality all the way to the shittiest quality. And I've probably drawn in all of them. I've had the Moleskine or Moleskine, however anyone wants to pronounce it. I've had Stillman and Byrne. I've had the crappy $5 Michaels sketchbooks, and even I've tried Dollar General books or Walmart sketchbooks as well. And some of them, surprisingly, are pretty good, but some of the ones that are super shitty really are super shitty. Like, that $5 price tag is true and behold, but sometimes It's just the way the paper handles it. I was going through a time in my life where I was only drawing in pencil. So the more I drew in pencil, the better the quality of paper it needed to be. But having those shitty notebooks, those $5 sketchbooks, especially the ones from Michael, it taught me that yes, the paper quality is terrible for pencil, but when I started drawing in ink pen, I was able to draw just fine, and it pushed me out of my comfort zone to explore only drawing in ink. So I have a series of sketchbooks where I only drew in ink pen, and without having that experience, I don't know if I would have ever made that leap. I've tried spiral bound notebooks, lay flat notebooks, perfect bound notebooks, my favorite being perfect bound that lay flat, because I used to enjoy drawing on both sides of the paper. I've tried small notebooks, tiny notebooks, large, extra large notebooks, depending on what I'm going for at that time. Sometimes I was just filling them with just gesture drawing or facial expressions or hands. I was rotating between the three, doing anatomy studies where I wanted to draw bigger. And then there's time periods of my life where I just wanted to draw small, and I kept a small notebook. It really doesn't matter the type of paper or the type of style. The best notebook is actually the one that you'll actually draw in, because if you're not going to draw in it, it doesn't matter. Like, sometimes I know that I would spend a crazy amount of money on a sketchbook. You know, it had the best type of cover, the best type of paper. It was beautiful. I felt that it in itself was a work of art. And I was not about to draw my crappy drawings in this book. And so for years, I just held on to this book because I thought that maybe one day I'll be good enough to put my artwork in it. But ultimately, I never felt that way. So I ended up just drawing in it anyway. Just pulling the trigger, drawing in a notebook, because that's what its purpose is for. I have so many sketchbooks at this point in time that I wish that I could fill a sketchbook in a month again. Like back when I was in college, that was one of the challenges one of my professors gave, was taking a notebook, taking a sketchbook, and filling it from top to bottom in, I don't think he did it in 1 month. I think it was for the semester, which was 3 months. So 90 days, which literally wasn't as hard as it seemed to be, but it was a lot of drawing, and we need, as a comic artist, as an artist in general, we need time to draw, and draw a lot, because it's that mind muscle repetition that actually helps us in our growing pattern. So what types of things could we draw within our sketchbooks? I mean, really anything. You could literally draw anything. Like, your sketchbook is a safe place for you to experiment and share, like, create ideas. You can create new things or study from old things. I've drawn everything from anatomy, hands, faces, eyes, panel designs, cool manga spreads, cover art, characters, poses, doodles, studies. I copy from other books and put it into my sketchbook. You can do anything in your sketchbook, and you should do anything in your sketchbook without feeling the need that you have to show it or share it to anyone. And as you draw, I would love to recommend or try to encourage you to put the date on your artwork. There's something amazing about starting a sketchbook with the date of that sketchbook, and then as you work page through page, just add the date. I don't necessarily draw in my sketchbook every single day. Sometimes there are weeks where I don't draw my sketchbook, and that's because I put all of my energy into whatever comic project I'm working on at the time. But when I do come back to those sketchbooks and I do start drawing again, I start with a date of whatever I'm working on at that time. I also, and it depends on, like I said, depends on what you are doing in your sketchbook. But currently I am taking some ideas or inspiration or learning from pen and ink drawing by Alfonso Dunn. And so I put pen and ink drawing, and whatever the lesson or the chapter is, I'll put that on there. You can add notes to your sketchbook to explain some of the ideas that you had during that time, because one day when you come back to your sketchbook, you're going to know exactly what you were doing or what you were thinking while you were drawing whatever design you were drawing. And not every single page deserves a note, but when you are studying, I think it helps you retain the information that you were studying if you write notes right where, like the reference that you got it from. There was a time when when Pinterest used to be amazing. This is before it got loaded with ads and AI. But when Pinterest used to be amazing, I would write that I got the image from Pinterest because I wanted to know where I could possibly get more images like that. Or if I did a Google search, I would write that down. Or Instagram, or the artist that I was studying, the comic book I was studying from, whatever. Just having these dates, this catalog of information, you can go back in time, go back 5 years and see how much you've changed. And if you happen to have your sketchbooks from when you were a kid or your scattered papers from when you were a kid, just seeing that evolution is amazing. I can look back fondly of when I was into certain things, like when I was really heavy into anime and Dragon Ball Z. I can see that in my sketchbooks because I kept all of them. I can also see my progression of when things started to click, like when anatomy became really important to me, when facial expressions became really important to me. I have a backlog of history of my own personal development. I think it's interesting to see, and I want you to have that ability to do it too, if you're not already doing it. If you're already doing it, gold star for you. I do want to get back to the idea of I don't draw my sketchbook every day. I know a lot of artists recommend drawing every day, and I actually take that as create something every single day. So that could be a drawing, that could be your comic page or a panel, it could be painting, it could be whatever you're doing that day to feed your artistic heart. But I think having a space that you come back to as kind of like a home base, I think it's important. Now, there are thousands of videos about how to fill a sketchbook on YouTube, on the internet, so feel free to definitely do your search and check all of that out. For comic artists specifically, I just like to add, you can copy comic ideas or cool panels, cool poses, cool perspective, cool lighting scenarios. Like, I have a book dedicated to inking comics because the way a panel uses shadows is very interesting to me. So I want all of those studies in a singular place, and that's important to me. And that book I've been working on for like 2 years. It's a watercolor book. It can handle the ink, it can handle marker, but to me, I think it's useful to, when I see a panel that inspires me to create, to see what I can learn from it. You can also do some studies on bubble placement. I have sections in my sketchbook where it is literally, I am just creating the page layout and I'm placing the bubbles in the box because I want to see how they designed the page flow with the speech bubbles. Because sometimes as an artist, we think about putting the artwork first and then the speech bubbles last, but really we need to work together with the words of the picture as well as the art of the picture. And of course, all the other things that you would typically find in a sketchbook: character designs, world building, landscapes, hands, feet, faces, eyes, whatever you're into drawing, put it there. It can be there. It's allowed to be there, and it should be there. I'd also recommend, as you're working through your sketchbook, sometimes you're not going to figure things out the first time. Sometimes you might need to draw things over and over again to get it. Like if you're drawing a weird head angle, you might not get that on the first time. You might need to draw 4 or 5 or several repetitions of that head angle or that facial expression just to get your hand used to the movement of how to draw that angle. Remember, we're trying to learn with our sketchbook. We're learning, we're improving, and we're having fun. So whatever you draw on one page, it doesn't have to be cohesive with the next page, especially if you're drawing both front and back pages. Now, some of you might say, well, I keep a digital sketchbook. That's better for me. And I can't really talk on digital sketchbooks. I do some digital drawings, obviously. I make my entire comic digitally. But I want to say that there is something about drawing traditionally that you can't get from digital. Something about the way the pencil or the pen glides over the paper or scratches against the paper, or just the interaction, the textile way it feels when you draw on paper. All I can say is that whatever things I study in my sketchbook traditionally have only helped me improve digitally. I think that is something that is always going to be a thing, is that whatever you do traditionally, you can easily replicate digitally. But I'm not so sure that everything I've done digitally goes right back into traditional. Maybe. I haven't tried it. I usually go from traditional to digital. So if you are a digital artist 99% of the time, let me know how well your technique transfers from digital back to traditional. I'd be interested to know. Leave it in the comment section below. And I guess the last thing I want to say, and I don't even know if this is relevant for you guys or not, but I grew up in a time in the late 1900s where there wasn't really a lot of pressure to put your things online. I drew all the time, and the only people who really got to see my drawings were my family and my close friends. Other than that, that was it. When DeviantArt came around, I would only put up 1 or 2 of those drawings, and that was it. Getting likes and comments or hearts and comments, that came later. And even in the early stages of Instagram, you could put a scribble on Instagram. You could put your rough ideas on Instagram, and people would enjoy just the idea that you were creating something, even though they didn't quite understand what direction you were going in. Putting finished art online just wasn't that big of a deal. Like, yes, it was appreciated, but I noticed that back then we appreciated the early stages of ideas and drawings just as much as we appreciated the final result. Seems recently the final result is what's mostly appreciated. And I'd like to challenge that by saying, 1, you don't really have to share your drawings online if you don't want to. But if you do want to share your drawings and they are rough, just share them. Who cares what the algorithm says, or who cares what people think about a drawing? Like, 9 times out of 10, you are doing something that other people wish they could do. And I don't care what level of artistic ability you have. I'm pretty sure all of us have shown our art to someone who's like, man, I really wish I could draw. When really, it's not that they can't draw, it's that they don't necessarily put in enough time to draw. So, remember, you have a sketchbook, you can draw, and you can share whatever you want to share. And everything else is for everything else. That's pretty much all I have to say today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider liking. Please check out the links in the description below to my old comics. Let me know what you think. And again, where are you guys on the idea of keeping a sketchbook? Do you draw daily, or do you at least just try to keep a sketchbook that you work on throughout the year? Thanks for watching, and until next time, let's make some progress.